Hi there, my name is Mance,
And my name is Dennis.
and we're your local San Diego real estate brokers. And today, what we're going to talk about is the biggest real estate questions that still seem to confuse everybody, and that is the topic of buyer's agent commissions.
Yes, and in 2024, a lot of the rules changed in real estate, and a lot of people were very confused from it. So we're going to talk about this topic so you get some clarity. And if you want to move forward to buying or selling, you know exactly what's going on in today's real estate market. So, Vance, why don't you tell us the story of what actually changed?
Yeah, so in general, nationwide across the board, when it comes to your real estate transaction, what has changed is basically the transparency when it comes to buyer's agents commissions. When it was previous to 2024, how it worked out, just so you can see the difference of it, was when you sell your property, the broker would come over, they would, present to you what the listing price could be, what the fees cost, and what timeline you can expect in selling. And during that conversation, it was typically a conversation of fee, and it's very variable. It can range anywhere from probably 4 to 6%, depending on who you're working with and what their tasks are in selling the property.
Mm-hmm.
But they looked at the commissions as a complete number, as the buyer's agent commission and the seller's agent commission, right? So they put that together. Let's just say it's two and a half. That would be split to the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. They would say, okay, when we list your property, we're gonna be having a fee of 5%.
Right.
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 In 2024, that's when it totally changed.
Right.
So now when you're selling your property, you're really only focused on the fee that you're paying for your agent that you hire. And the buyer's agent commission is something that you no longer present on the MLS anymore. You don't say, okay, we're willing to pay this much for a buyer to bring an offer in. So what that has done is just decoupled that commission fee that you're paying as a seller. And the importance of that is nationwide, buyers and sellers wanted more transparency when it came to those fees.
Mm-hmm.
Many times people were just signing documents and they weren't really aware of how much their agent was receiving from that sale.
Right.
So that's why that whole lawsuit and litigation came about from the beginning. Why this is so important for you as a buyer or a seller is you want to know upfront what your fees are when you buy or sell a home, right?
Right.
And you also want to know your representation levels and who's getting what and who's not getting what. And there was a lot of, I guess you could say, fog when it came to the fees. People weren't fully sure what was actually going on.
Right. So we're going to talk about three things. What actually changed, what buyers need to know when they purchase a home, and what sellers need to know. So we're going to talk about these 3 points on this video. So really, what actually changed? Let's talk about before 2024. Well, but Man's kind of highlighted it. We would get a listing agent would get the contract, and it'll say from 4 to 6% or even higher, depending on what the property is, and then we would leave it as that, and it would be usually divided up with the buyer's agents on that. So on the MLS in 2024 and beyond, we can no longer write down that full split commission, like Man said. It'll only be actually nothing will be disclosed on that. Everything will be in writing. So like we're doing a few offers right now, the offers will come in from an agent and the request of a compensation on their side. It will be in writing. So the seller would be in full transparency of what they're going to pay at the end of closing. So they'll have their side on the listing, which they already know about when they took the contract in. And then that offers that will come in, it'll be disclosed what the agent is requesting. And then we'll, obviously as listing agents, we'll talk about that with them of how to proceed with these offers. So point number 2, we're going to talk about what buyers need to know. Once again, we got to highlight everything should be in writing. And before the agents will meet you, they're going to talk to you about that, of what's going on in this market.
And I'm actually going to bring it back to a big question that a lot of buyers have in general and sellers is when that, I guess, law change came about, was there actually a massive commission collapse for our real estate transactions? And the answer is really no. Most sellers are still paying a buyer agent compensation. Now, it's totally separate from what their listing agent fee is. And like you said, it is within their buyer's actual purchase agreement that they're writing. However, it's one that's totally negotiable still, just as it's always been.
Right.
But it's just a different way of receiving that fee structure.
Right. So for buyers who are in the market right now, it is moving seasons. These are a couple things you need to know. Make sure that everything is in writing from the agent that you're working with, including the closing cost, the down payment. That should be disclosed to you when you get pre-approved if you're not paying for cash on that.
So let's go into what the buyer should actually know about nowadays, right?
Yes, exactly.
So when you are going to the process of buying a property, there's really a few things that you really want to know before we even take that step.
Right.
The first off is previously you were able to basically tour any home that you
Right.
wanted to with an agent without having to have any type of agreement with
That's
that
right.
agent, right?
Right.
So since then, buyers are actually required to sign an agreement with an agent before touring any home.
That's right.
So, it doesn't mean that you have to be representation agreement where you're stuck with only that agent. Some companies are doing what's called touring agreements,
Yes.
but it is a requirement that there has to be some type of relationship, whether you're just touring properties with an agent or they're actually fully representing you as their agent before you can tour a home with any realtor.
Yes.
That is a reason why we do see open houses being more common than they were before. Sometimes buyers aren't fully ready to make that step, so they're looking at open houses, right?
Right.
And that's totally great. It's fine to do that just to see what's out there in the inventory. But if you're really getting serious, you do want to take that step of meeting with the realtor or broker to know about what their agreements are and what they're going to do for you before you start seeing homes.
Right. So when we look at that point from a buyer, some things change and some things haven't changed, right? The good news is the data is telling us from last year, 88% of all buyers are still using professional realtors to find their home. And that's good news. Why? Because you want their counsel, you want their guidance, right? So make sure whoever you do hire, they have a lot of experience in this market to help you make that right choice. Let's talk about point number 3. What do sellers need to know about this new rule that was started in 2024? Mance, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so nowadays they can actually choose not to offer a compensation for a buyer's agent, right? It's totally possible for them to do that. Like I said earlier, do we see it often? We really don't. Most sellers understand the importance of having representation on both sides of the transaction. It makes your process way smoother, way more professional. And typically, you're getting a better price for your home because you're working with real professionals. But that does also have a degree if they do decide not to offer a compensation. Because especially in the market that we're in, where there's high interest rates, there's high cost of homes already, it makes it really hard for a buyer to be able to afford not only the cost of their loan, the cost of the home, but now they have to pay their agent.
That's right.
So those are really things that buyers are very wary of before they even look at homes. So if you are selling a property, you really want to have that discussion with your agent of choice to see if paying a buyer's or offering a buyer's compensation is very important for your home, because you could limit the amount of people willing to see your property because they just simply can't afford to pay their agent on top of paying their closing costs and the cost of the home. Right?
Yes, and really it's marketing 101. If we have point home number A, they're offering 2.5% to a buyer's agent. Home number B, they're offering 3%, and home C, they're offering 0. Well, you know which one the agent's gonna show the home first before he shows the one that's given no compensation. So one thing about that, we like when we sell real estate or help buyers, we make it really with common sense, right? We have a 10-step program map that would help a first-time buyer or an experienced buyer to go through the process as a reminder to help you. So if you need any help, just remember, don't let these rules and regulations spoil your dream, your goal of getting your home or upgrading or downgrading. It is very possible, as long as you know the disclosures of these new agreements that the Board of Realtors have disclosed in the U.S.
Absolutely. So I guess the biggest takeaway for people buying and selling today would be basically it's that real estate commissions did not disappear.
That's right.
They're still very active on both sides of the transactions. However, the actual commissions itself is just way more transparent than it was in years past.
That's right.
So buyers and sellers both also need to understand that negotiation power is very important in their purchase or sale. So, you want to work with an agent who has great negotiating tactics, skills, I've been in the industry for a long time and know how to overcome these negotiations if they get stagnant. So your strategy is really more important now than ever when it comes to selling your property. And you really want to work with someone who knows this process, or I guess this new process.
Right, right.
Even more now.
Right. What the good news is in this market, we had 400 homes sell this week, like almost 500 that's pending. So the market's still very active in San Diego, and we would love to tell you more about market updates. Just reach out to us. No obligation. It's free. We're located right here in Scripps Ranch. We'll love to help you. If you're moving to San Diego or moving out, we'll love to give you that great advice.
So if you found this real estate information useful and very informative for you and your next purchase or sale, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe. We post real estate updates and market insights like this every week.